Hello YouTube. So we are doing internal security and we completed a significant portion of the syllabus, and these were some intros and everything you can look for in the first video, and let's quickly continue where we left. So today's agenda is a few topics, and they are, let me just map them once for you. Terror. Let's start with terror financing. We'll start with terror financing. We'll then move to terrorism as a topic. And here we'll see how terrorism is connected to tourism. And next will be organized crime. And we'll move to communication networks from here. And one last topic that we are going to cover in this video is cyber security. I am hoping that one last video will be there for internal security. This is the second last video, and because the video gets too long, so for my own feasibility, I break the topics into small chunks, and we'll be able to cover the complete internal security in one more video. Regarding the completion of the schedule and everything, initially I thought that even though I am not appearing in this year's mains, I will prepare in a way that I'll be appearing in this year's mains. ठीक है, so we'll quickly cover the things, but then I realized that that will serve some of its purposes, but I want to comprehensively cover the main syllabus because I don't want to be stuck with UPSC preparation for long. I don't know what the result will be, but I just want to move on from the preparation part, and to move on from the preparation part, it's very important to cover everything comprehensively so that you need to spend a very little time to revise all of them and add the relevant current affairs whenever I give the attempt. Correct. So let's not rush. Okay, let's cover the topics comprehensively, and my uh, plan right now is to cover the mains exclusive subjects first. ठीक है, मेंस exclusive subjects in the sense कि internal security that we don't study in prelims. ठीक है, internal security, and then there is your society is there, there is disaster management. ठीक है, so these are some examples of mains exclusive subjects, and I was hoping that I will first cover all this, and next we'll move to the foundation subjects like polity and your geography, and this will be somewhat in a way that I can study for both prelims and mains together. Okay, so my purpose is to be get done with the mains exclusive subjects and the optional subject including ethics. Okay, all these chunks I want to cover in the next 80 days comprehensively. Okay, let's not rush the process. So let's quickly move to the content part. We are done with the intro, and if we move to terror financing first. Okay. So what is terror financing? Terror financing is nothing but the methods in which terror is financed. ठीक है, तो I remember when I was studying from Dr. Shivan sir, he gave a framework to study about terrorism, and it will serve a very good purpose. It will serve a very good method to write answers regarding terrorism. Like he said, that break terrorism into few subparts. Like it will start with propaganda. Correct. There will be some propaganda behind a terrorist activity. Then there will be recruitment. Correct. Then there will be recruitment, and then after recruitment there will be training, and after training there will be execution. So if we break the terrorist activities in these four broad subtopics, we'll be able to write very good answers. Because if we have to, let's say, write challenges, correct, we'll write challenges to tackle terrorism in the propaganda stage, in recruitment stage, in training stage, in execution stage. And if we have to write the way forward, we'll again write the way forward for propaganda stage, in recruitment stage, in training stage, and in execution stage. So this is a very important way to write the answers related to terrorism questions, correct. And then, let's say, if you have to write examples that how terror financing happens in these stages, so we can start with the propaganda part. So there maybe might be some religious propaganda, there might be some state non-state actors, talking about these things become very controversial, so I'm avoiding talking about all these things. But yeah, terrorism, there might be some, like ISIS is there. So ISIS recruits through social media also, right? So that is there. Also Lashkar-e-Toiba training camps are there, and they are supported by hawala and zakat contributions that we read everywhere, right? And so these are some things you can find this in any mains magazines. I will ignore this for now. Okay. And there are execution stage like 2611 attack that happened in India. It was funded through charity fronts. So the thing is, let me clear one thing. The fund they use was originally meant to be for charity purpose, but that funds are being misused. It's not that the original funder, the person who is providing the funding, is having this motive or something like that. The funds are being misused. So while writing answers, we have to be very diplomatic. We can't directly accuse someone or a section of the society that they are funding for it, correct. Okay. So if we move to the counter terror financing part, like how India is countering terror financing, we can see, like, there are some priority issues, like prevent diversion from legal financial instruments, restrict use of crime proceeds, and like prevent misuse of new financial technologies like cryptos, wallets. And we all know that cryptocurrency is your decentralized, correct. So it's very difficult when a cryptocurrency is used to finance terror activities. So it becomes very difficult to uh, you know uh, keep the track of the finance. So it's very important that we prevent the misuse of new financial technologies and eliminate illegal channels like hawala and cash couriers. And you must be noticing that our government is taking steps to control the cash use. There's limit to amount of cash you can use, and rest of the transaction has to be done through bank or online or whatever. But there's a limit of cash use, correct. I also remember that when I was studying economics, in economy there are legal tender topics. So the current Indian currency is basically your unlimited tender. But the thing is, there's a limit of I if I am not wrong, it is FRBM Act. According to that act, there the Indian currency is not unlimited. Basically, you can only use up to 2 lakhs or something like that, right? So this is your India's counter strategy. And there, after that, you can write that there are um, 3C approach. ठीक है. 3C approach is cooperation. ठीक है. There is coordination, and then there is collaboration. ठीक है. This is India's 3C approach. There is also 3T approach. The thing is, if we make these types of answer writing framework, it becomes very easy to remember all of them. Because if we take random points, it becomes very difficult to remember them for long term, correct. So 3C is cooperation, coordination, collaboration. 3T is your trace, target and terminate. Correct. So this is the thing. And like we write the pestle structure for every answer, yeah, that is strengthening and harmonizing the legal structures. So in one page, if we just write legal structure, so we'll obviously be able to use this in the answer, with the supportive words like strengthening and harmonizing the legal structure, robust mechanism against new technology that I talked about cryptocurrency, right? So these are some counter-terror financing uh, strategy of India, and there are also some initiatives that you can write for, as value addition, like CCFT cell is there, and uh, FCORD is also there. Fake Indian Currency Notes Coordination Center is the full form of this. Okay, so these are something we can write. Okay, then there is also something called as Delhi Declaration. Correct. Delhi Declaration is basically your United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee. Correct. And in this Delhi Declaration, the focus was to avoid the misuse of new and emerging technologies by terrorists, and the commitment of further development recommendations on like ICT and emerging tech exploitation, new payment and fundraising methods, misuse of drones. So these were some of the things that we talked in the Delhi Declaration. Correct. Okay, then if we move to also money laundering is also, we talked about money laundering in our last videos. So in money laundering is also one of the methods in which this terror financing happens. Correct. So this framework is very important, because if you remember this framework, it will become very easy to write the answers of like terrorism questions. Correct. And one thing I also believe, that it's very easy to remember something and just write them in the exam hall, but the difficulty comes when the examiner slightly twists the question, and then if you don't know how to tackle the unknown questions. Correct. Let's say you prepared something and that exactly comes in the question, exam. That is very rare situation, but if that happens, that's very good for you. But let's say, but I hope you agree to this, that most of the questions will not be according to our notes or our preparation. So उस टाइम पे हम क्या करेंगे? At that point will we should have a capability of writing the unknown answers. Correct. Unknown questions. So that is a very important challenge. So focus on the structure, focus on the framework, answer writing framework, rather than the uh, fodder points, because fodder points you will anyway get. ठीक है, अभी तो इतना बड़ा प्रिपरेशन है, अभी मेंस के जब जिस साल मेंस लिखेंगे उसके 80 दिन पहले भी तो फॉर्डर मटेरियल मिल ही जाएगा हमें करंट अफेयर से, and even those current affairs things will be more important than collecting static fodder right now. So fodder points is not a concern, that of a concern. It's very important to identify a answer writing framework. जैसे money laundering के case में, if you remember, money laundering में we remember that there is placement, there is layering, there is integration. One thing I always get confused between placement पहले था कि layering पहले था. ठीक है, I still don't remember कि placement पहले था कि layering पहले था. You can write in the comment section if you are watching till here, or you can watch the previous video, and I will also have a look at that. But you are getting my point, right? If we have a broad idea of the answer writing framework, it becomes very easy to write the answer. Correct. Okay, next, terror financing is done. Let's move towards your terrorism topic. Correct. Okay, so I remember in the class, sir started this topic, terrorism, with a definition difficulty factor, because it's very difficult to agree on criteria for defining terrorism, because there is a disagreement over who uses violence against whom and for what purpose. Because our freedom fighters, when was fighting for our freedom, independence of the country, at that moment britishers were concluding them as terrorists, but they were freedom fighters. So it becomes very difficult to have a universal definition of terrorism. So in most of the answers what we do whenever we are asked about something, we start with the definition in the intro. But let's say if we are asked a question on terrorism and we answer the terrorism question with let's say this kind of intro, that there's a fundamental disagreement over who uses violence against whom and for what purpose, is broadly what we know about terrorism. सो इफ वी मतलब मैं तो अभी स्पॉन्टेनियसली विदाउट प्रिपरेशन बोल रहा था इंट्रो, इसीलिए ऐसा हो गया, बट आई विल हैव अ मतलब फिक्स्ड इंट्रो ऑन दिस लाइन. ठीक है. Also there are state versus non-state actors, like both state and non-state groups use violence for political objectives, and there is also a blurred line between terrorism and state sanctioned violence. Correct. Okay. So also there is a institutional bias because most definitions created by government linked bodies purposely exclude acts committed by states from being leveled as terrorism. So this is also very important point to consider, that terrorism का अगर एक तो definition देना ही मुश्किल है, and even if we give a definition to the terrorism thing, there a challenge, there comes a challenge, because the people who are defining this term are intentionally purposefully excluding the acts committed by states from being labeled as terrorism. Correct. Okay. Next, there is a complexity of terrorism because every activity, every kind of terrorism has different motivation. Like there are state terrorism. ठीक है. State terrorism, use of violence or coercion by a government or its agents against its own citizens, right? For example, encounter, extrajudicial killings, torture, enforced disappearance, arbitrary detention. These are different motivations, these have different motivations. But another is state sponsored terrorism. Now, state sponsored terrorism we talked about in our first video, most probably. Okay, in which we talked about Pakistan, how it funds the terror activities in India, like act of terrorism committed by non-state actors supported, funded, or directly by a government. So this is a covert strategy to achieve political objective without direct involvement. Like Pakistan as a state sponsored terrorism activity, it's a covert strategy, correct, to achieve its political objective, and it's not a direct involvement like Pakistan supports Lashkar-e-Taiba, correct. So this is a very important point. Another kind of terrorism is your political terrorism. Now political terrorism is basically seeking specific political goals. Okay. So this is also one kind of terrorism. Another is your ideology oriented, like right wing terrorism or left wing terrorism. There is also religious terrorism motivated by religious ideologies. There might be some ethno nationalist terrorism, like it seeks to advance interests of a specific ethnic or national group, correct. So in religious terrorism you can give example of Taliban, Al Qaeda, ISIS. So these are some um, examples of religious terrorism, correct. Okay. There are also methods of terrorism that are very important. Okay, so let's quickly talk about methods of terrorism. Now methods of terrorism can be of few types, like first one is conventional terrorism, in which we use traditional weapons, firearms, bombs and tactics to inflict violence, correct. Next is your nuclear terrorism. Here, malicious use or threatened use of nuclear device or materials are used. Correct. Next is your biological terrorism. In biological terrorism, it is like intentional release of biological agents. For example, you can use the example of 2001 anthrax attacks in USA. Okay. Another one is your cyber terrorism, that is basically a technology to disrupt or damage computer systems, correct. You can remember like coordinated DDoS attack on Indian website during Operation Sindoor. Okay, so that is another example of that. Again we have narco. So narco terrorism is basically linked to illicit drugs production, distribution and sale. Okay. Another new kind of attack is coming forefront, that is lone wolf terrorism, in which individuals acting alone without support for larger organization. ठीक है. So these are some methods of terrorism. Next, if we come to technological aspect, that is use of drones in terrorism. ठीक है, there are many kinds of drones that are being used in terrorism. ठीक है, if you remember that a lot of drones were intercepted by our S-400 defense system, air defense system, during Operation Sindoor. Correct. Okay. Next is your use. Next, a heading we can use. Basically, if we get a question on that is somehow you're related to technology in terrorism. ठीक है. So in that, what we can do is again make a framework. ठीक है. Terrorism में सबसे पहले हमने एक framework बनाया था. सबसे पहले है propaganda, then there is recruitment, then there is training, and you can make some more steps to write a good answer. Propaganda, recruitment, training, then there comes your planning, and then there comes your, after planning there is fundraising, and then there is execution. So these are some your stages of terrorism. Correct, these are some stages of terrorism. And now when we write the technology that is being used in these stages to execute the terrorism, we can write in propaganda that ideology is spreaded through social media, dark web, deepfakes, games. Correct, like ISIS is using Telegram to spread terrorism ideologies. Correct, then recruitment is also being done by Telegram. Okay, then training is being done on dark web forum so that it is not being caught by the centralized authorities. Correct. Next is your planning. Encrypted communications are being done on your social media or dark webs or whatever. Again, there is a fundraising stage where we talked about crypto, hawala, etc. And there is execution also, where drones, unarmed vehicles are also used as technology in the execution of terrorism. Correct. Now, what is the problem of technology in this terrorism nexus? There, the first problem we face is your planning issue, because inadequate knowledge of the dynamic nature and like magnitude of the technological threat creates potential for terrorist attacks through innovative technological means, because every now and then a new technology is being emerged. Okay, and in that it becomes very difficult to train our people who are behind these security agencies to always train them of the new technologies that are being emerged in the world. So it becomes very difficult to have the adequate knowledge, okay, to counter those new technologies. Another is your swift evolution is basically the same point we talked about, right? That technology outspaces regulation. Correct. Okay, next is also a subtopic of what we already discussed, that is it's a very fast progress. ठीक है, मतलब टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोग्रेस इज वेरी फास्ट. ठीक है. Another is your technology fatigue. That's a very good keyword to use. Technology fatigue, that is basically recurrent incidents of minor terrorism event foster complacency among authorities. ठीक है. Another is your dual use nature, like technology such as AI has potential to be abused by terrorists to recruit, spread hatred, and support their insurgency. But again, that doesn't mean we can put a ban on AI, right? Because AI is very much a potential for good causes as well, but that is again the dual use nature of technology. It is a double-edged sword. Correct. Okay. Now, the same stages that we talked about, like propaganda, recruitment, training, planning, ठीक है, funding, and your execution, in the same framework we can write answers about countering terrorism with technology. ठीक है, मतलब for example, if we talked about telegram recruitment, we can write the solution in the same method, that we can have a trustworthy citizens who are using those apps. ठीक है, and predicting the behaviors by integrating AI and analytics. ठीक है, मतलब टेलीग्राम का यूज, the usage of telegram can say a lot about the patterns that are being noticed, sudden increase in the uses of telegram or something like that. So the same stages we write the challenges, and in the same stages we write the way forward, correct? Okay. Next, there is if I see my short notes, we can talk about some Indian initiatives, like there is our IB, there is RAW, okay, there is NAT grid. These are some Indian initiatives we can remember to write in the exam. But though these are mainly value addition, and I avoid talking about value addition because if all of us have the same value addition points, that defeats the purpose of uniqueness, correct? Here we are just broadly revising our static concepts, our answer writing frameworks, and the fodder points is a very personal and should be like that, because if all of us have the same fodder points, that doesn't serve any purpose, right? We don't want everyone to write the same answers, but we want everyone to write on the same framework so that we can have good marks, correct? Okay. So again, if we are asked to write about, let's say, ki what approach India is taking in countering terrorism, we can again either write in pestle format, or let's say in GS paper wise approach. ठीक है कि pestle approach, if someone doesn't know, that is political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. So this is your pestle format. And let's say if you are asked what is India's approach in social front, then there you can write on the example of Operation Sadbhavana, that is social outreach by armed forces, public awareness, de-radicalization programs can be there. Okay, so in this way you can write the approach of India in pestle format, correct? Legislative, legal or legislative, whatever you call it, there is UAPA Amendment Act, National Investigation Agency, NIA Amendment Act. In economic, you can we can sorry, this was for environment, this was in economic, like fake Indian currency notes, coordinated group to counter the fake currency. Then there is cryptocurrency surveillance. Okay, so these are some things. Also in technological, we can write social media surveillance. ठीक है, new telecom rules, monitoring financial transaction. This is very important to have a monitor, have some monitoring of financial transactions. Like there are PMLA Act that keeps eye on the मतलब unnatural or unprecedented financial transactions, correct? Okay. We also can write UN global counterterrorism strategy. There are four pillars to it, and the first pillar is address conditions conducive to the spread of terrorism. Basically, let's say there are two youth, okay? There are two youth, and one is having a 1 lakh per month job, okay? Another is unemployed. Then it's very likely that this person maybe fall prey to the ISIS initiative or their intention through Telegram or social media. So it is very important to address the condition, that is unemployed youth, address the condition conducive to the spread of terrorism. Okay. And let's say another section that fall prey to the intention of terrorism is people living in the border areas. So they develop a sense of negligence from the state. Okay, that state doesn't focus on them, doesn't work for their improvement. So in that case, if we try to gain a trust of the border areas people, then we can have a then we can address the conditions that are conducive to the spread of terrorism. Again, the next UN global counterterrorism strategy, second pillar is basically your prevent and combat terrorism. Third is your measures to build states capacity to prevent and combat terrorism. And one last pillar is also there, that is ensure respect for human rights for all and the rule of law. ठीक है, that is basically when you catch a terrorist or something like that, you respect that human rights for that person, even if she or he is terrorist. ठीक है, I don't this is my this might be arguable. ठीक है, that if a terrorist should also have human rights or not, but yeah, we can write some good answers based on this. Okay. Okay, so next, a very important topic, that is terrorism and tourism. Okay, now if we can recall that when the Pahalgam attack was done, that was not done on a financial institution, that was not done on an educational institution, that was done on a tourist spot. Why? Now the thing is, the people in that Kashmir Valley area, in Pahalgam area, the people there, the shops they run, the restaurant, the hotels they run. If tourists don't visit their places, they will lack a financial uh, independence. Correct. Now, when they will have a weakness of finance support, then the people, the state that are sponsoring terrorism, will try to help them with finances. Okay, and they will then misuse or blackmail those people, our own people. So to counter that thing, the best solution is tourism. Let's say a lot of people visits those border areas, Kashmir areas, then there will be development. they the people who are our own people won't face difficulties in like financial difficulties, and then terrorists won't be able to misuse them. Correct, you are getting my point. So now tourism is very very important for the development of the border facing areas. Now, if if that tourism falls down, terrorism grows. Okay, so this is very important factor to talk about. And the next is basically again to develop answer writing framework like we had before. In the topic of terrorism and tourism, we can have various stages of tourism. Okay, the first stage can be dreaming and planning. ठीक है, प्लानिंग लेट्स से। ठीक है, तो हम कभी भी घूमने जाते हैं तो सबसे पहले हम प्लान करते हैं, बट उस प्लानिंग के टाइम पे अगर हमें ये न्यूज़ दिखे कि कोई टूरिस्ट स्पॉट पे अटैक हो गया या फिर वट एवर, वी विल नॉट plan anymore. Next stage can be booking or decision making of your tickets and all. And if at that stage we come to know about a terrorist activity in the tourist spots, there will be surge in trip cancellations, like higher travel insurance premiums, that will also affect the economy of the country. Then there are transit and travel, like heightened airport and border security checks cause delays. ठीक है, on destination experience भी खराब होगा. For example, let's say you go to Kashmir and there you have to go through 20 checkpoints in the whole day. You will not be feeling like visiting Kashmir again, and that is basically a negative on destination experience, right? So and one last stage can also be there, that is return and post travel. ठीक है, जो मैं अभी बोल रहा था कि अगर आपका एक्सपीरियंस अच्छा नहीं होगा तो आप जब घर आओगे तो देर विल बी अ नेगेटिव वर्ड ऑफ माउथ. ठीक है, एंड ऑल्सो यू विल नॉट री ट्रेवल इन दोज प्लेसेस. ठीक है, सो दिस इज हाउ टेररिज्म इम्पैक्ट टूरिज्म. Now, how does tourism counter terrorism, that I was talking? मतलब एक तो terrorism impact कर रहा है tourism को, and tourism can also counter terrorism, like strengthening local economies and reduce radicalization, like we talked about vibrant village program. Another is your building community engagement and peace. There can be soft power and positive narrative building. There can be international cooperation. There can be youth employment and skill development, like I talked. ठीक है, so these are some things. Again, value addition will not talk here. You can simply search about a data example, or I have shared a material also in the Telegram group. In that material of Sarthi IS, you can find everything of internal security. And also Prahar magazines are published for free, mains 365 is published for free. You can add those all value addition points, but what's important here is to discuss the framework of writing answer or understanding the concepts. Correct. Okay, also there is organized crime. ठीक है, organized crime is basically the syllabus point that we have to learn. And the PYQ is also there, most probably, that what are the linkages between terrorism and organized crime. So we can have basically stages again, like there is a stage of funding. So what is the difference between terrorism and organized crime in the context of funding? Correct. So in this way we can have the differences. ठीक है. So let's start with motivation. ठीक है. Because we talked about propaganda first, so that this way this sync well. Correct. So terrorism के पीछे जो मोटिवेशन होता है, दैट इज योर पॉलिटिकल आइडियोलॉजीज एंड मोटिव्स. बट ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम के पीछे जो होता है, दैट इज इकोनॉमिक एंड फाइनेंशियल गोल्स. ठीक है, इकोनॉमिक होता है ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम में, और यहाँ पे टेररिज्म में पॉलिटिकल आइडियोलॉजीज होता है. बिकॉज इन टेररिज्म पीपल वांट टू स्प्रेड टेरर इन देयर हार्ट्स. ठीक है, बट ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम में बस उनको पैसे चाहिए, उनको पैसे से मतलब है. लाइक उसके बाद अल्टीमेट गोल अगर देखें हम लोग, तो गोल क्या होता है टेररिज्म का गोल होता है टॉपलिंग गवर्नमेंट्स. ठीक है, फर्दरिंग आइडियोलॉजिकल एजेंडाज लाइक आईएसआईएस. ठीक है, बट ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम का क्या होगा? ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम का फाइनेंशियल गेन होगा. ऑपरेशन स्टाइल क्या होगा? टेररिज्म ओवर्टली करेगा. ठीक है, ओवर्टली इसीलिए करेगा कि इनको टेरर फैलाना होता है, दहशत फैलाना होता है. द वे टेल इन से इन हिंदी, दहशत फैलाना है बेसिकली, आपको डराना है उसको. ठीक है, ताकि जैसे कि अगर पहलगाम अटैक हो गया, तो आई एम श्योर देर वुड बी अ डिक्लाइन इन टूरिस्ट एक्टिविटीज इन दैट एरिया. ठीक है, तो वहां पे उनको दहशत फैलाना था कि वो पहलगाम का डेवलपमेंट ना हो. बट इफ वी टॉक अबाउट ऑर्गेनाइज क्राइम, दे एक्ट कोवर्टली. ठीक है, बिकॉज दे डोंट वांट टू come in front of the picture, they want to stay back and just gain their financial gain. ठीक है. Okay, again if we have another point, that is organizational structure. Organizational structure is basically, in your terrorism there will be often a tight hierarchical structure. ठीक है, but in organized crime there may consist loosely affiliated organization. So 4 to 5 points are good enough. ठीक है. Okay, again there are some initiatives to counter organized crime, like we can again break them into फ्रेमवर्क्स. ठीक है, जैसे कुछ लीगल इनिशिएटिव होगा, कुछ इंस्टीट्यूशनल इनिशिएटिव होगा, कुछ टेक्नोलॉजिकल इनिशिएटिव होगा. इंस्टीट्यूशनल में सीबीआई है. ठीक है, फाइनेंशियल इंटेलिजेंस यूनिट्स है. ठीक है, टेक्नोलॉजी में अगर हम देखें तो क्राइम एंड क्रिमिनल ट्रैकिंग नेटवर्क है, नेट ग्रीड है. एंड लीगल में अगर हम देखें तो पीएमएलए है. ठीक है, सो दीज काइंड ऑफ इनिशिएटिव्स अगर हम हर एक टाइप के, मतलब लेट्स से कि आपने लीगल में ही 4 एक्ट दे दिया. ठीक है, एंड इधर कुछ नहीं दिया, दैट डजंट लुक गुड. ठीक है, तो अगर हम लीगल के 2 पॉइंट दे दे, इंस्टीट्यूशन के 2 पॉइंट दे दे, एंड टेक्नोलॉजिकल के 2 पॉइंट दे दे, then in this way we will have 6 different points to 6 different initiative to counter organized crime, and that too on different dimension, multi-dimensional. Correct. So that's our basically idea. Also there are some Interpol and Bharatpol topic that I can see in my notes. These are basically international police, and this is basically established by member countries as point of access for Interpol affairs. And I think this year in prelims silver notice also came in prelims question. This, but the thing about mains preparation is you prepare so dimensionally, so holistically, that it eventually ends up helping you in prelims also. Correct. So in silver notice of Interpol, it is basically launched by Interpol obviously, and India is also a part of it, and this is used to request information about assets connected to criminal activities. So this is Interpol. And again there is Bharatpol, that is your developed by CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, and this is for real time information sharing among Indian law enforcement agencies. Correct. So this is the thing. Okay, Interpol हो गया है, भारतपोल हो गया. Next, there are also different notices, Interpol notices that can be asked in prelims. I have here in my notes, like red notice, orange notice, blue notice. Blue notice is about a person's identity or location. Green notice is there for like when I saw the question in prelims, it I really was thinking that how important mains preparation is. ठीक है. Okay, next is your next topic that we have today is communication networks. ठीक है, now communication networks का भी हम framework बनाएंगे. Again my same philosophy that it's not important to discuss the fodder points here. Fodder points you can collect individually, personally, your unique own fodder points. I am here to discuss the framework with you, and the communication network framework is basically user, device, network, and again device, and service provider, and that person's hardware, and again user. So this is the complete framework for your communication network. And now whenever we are asked about a question on communication networks, let's say we are not prepared that question, then we can simply find out from these frameworks and write a good answer on that question, correct? Okay, now if we are asked about role of communication networks, so role of communication networks में again हम use करेंगे पेस्टल अप्रोच. लाइक इकोनॉमी में हम लिखेंगे यूपीआई, ठीक है. एडुकेशन में हम लिखेंगे ई लर्निंग, ठीक है. उसके बाद गवर्नेंस में हम लिखेंगे उमंग एंड को, आरोग्य सेतु और कोविन वट एवर यू कॉल इट. फिर हेल्थ में हम लिख सकते हैं टेलीमेडिसिन, टेलीमानस लिखेंगे एक्चुअली, टेलीमानस इज अ बेटर पॉइंट. देन पावर इज देयर, सो स्मार्ट ग्रिड्स आर देयर, ठीक है. So these are some roles of your communication networks. ठीक है. Now there are some vulnerabilities, my bad, sorry, vulnerabilities also. There is a budget vulnerability, like limited budget for cyber security infrastructure. There the equipments we use are imported, so there is a dependency on foreign technology, creates supply chain risks. There is also a complex governance, like multiple agencies overlapping jurisdiction. And as we have talked in our first video, that if there are multiple agencies, then there will be an accountability factor. ठीक है. So this there is that is another point. And again there are evolving threats, like rapidly changing cyber threat landscape, correct? So this was broadly about communication network. And next and the last topic probably for the day is your cyber security. Now cyber security is basically can be divided in few categories, like data security, network security, endpoint security, ठीक है. So these are some elements of cyber security, ठीक है. We can write on this. Okay, let's quickly talk about cyber security challenges. ठीक है. What are the federal issues related to तो challenges को भी हम कुछ framework में divide कर लेते हैं cyber security का. क्या क्या challenges है? सबसे पहले federal challenges है. Federal challenges में क्या है कि responsibility एक तो clear नहीं है, ठीक है, responsibility unclear है. फिर नेक्स्ट हम क्या लिख सकते हैं कि नॉट इन सेवन शेड्यूल, क्योंकि उस टाइम सेवन शेड्यूल जब बना था तब साइबर सिक्योरिटी वाज नॉट अ थिंग. एंड देन if we write administrative issue, there we can write procedural inadequacy, ठीक है. then we can write cyber labs, ठीक है. नेक्स्ट इज योर टेक्नोलॉजिकल. टेक्नोलॉजिकल इज फेसलेस, ठीक है. साइबर क्राइम फेसलेस होता है मोस्टली, बॉर्डरलेस होता है, जरूरी नहीं है कि इंडिया से ही करे, कोई कोई यूएसए में बैठ के ये चीज कर सकता है. उसके बाद लो कॉस्ट हाई रिटर्न है टेक्नोलॉजी, मतलब एक लैपटॉप ले लो आप एंड आप एक पूरा साइट क्रैश कर सकते हो जिससे करोड़ों डेटा लीक हो सकता है, ठीक है. सो दिस इज बेसिकली सम challenges of cyber security frameworks. And there are also in some specific India's vulnerabilities, like third most targeted phishing attacks are done on India. Wave threats are there, like 22% Indian users are fell prey to the web threats, ठीक है. So these are all basically some Indian vulnerabilities you can write according to your own individual points, according to though that year current affairs when you are writing mains, ठीक है. Next is your measures or initiative. Again we'll write that in framework how to help that. So सबसे पहले हम legal framework देखेंगे तो नेशनल साइबर सिक्योरिटी पुलिस 2013 में हुआ था. There is IT Act also. The IT Act was also amended, ठीक है. उसके बाद सर्ट इन करके एक कुछ तो इनिशिएटिव है जिसमें इंडियन कंप्यूटर इमरजेंसी रिस्पांस टीम होता है, ठीक है. स्टेट लीड भी है, केरला का अपना है, महाराष्ट्र का अपना है, तमिलनाडु का अपना है, ठीक है. अदर इनिशिएटिव्स आर आल्सो देयर, लाइक साइबर सुरक्षित भारत इनिशिएटिव, डिजिटल इंडिया इनिशिएटिव यू कैन आल्सो राइट. सो दीज आर सम पॉइंट्स अबाउट इनिशिएटिव्स, ठीक है. ओके, the same framework is continuing since the first video, like what is it, why is it relevant, what are the challenges, what are the initiatives, what are the way forwards. This is the broad framework we are going to follow in most of the subjects. ठीक है. Next is some international frameworks are also there, and I think we are pretty much done about this topic. ठीक है. And yeah, we are pretty much done about it. And there are also a topic, there is also a topic of digital arrests. ठीक है, मतलब सिर्फ इस पे तो क्वेश्चन नहीं आएगा, बट डिजिटल अरेस्ट हम कोई एक साइबर क्राइम के क्वेश्चन में डाल सकते हैं कि साइबर फ्रॉड वेयर स्कैमर्स impersonate law enforcement or government officers calls and falsely accuse victims of serious crimes. ठीक है, so this is something that can be written in an answer. ठीक है. So yeah, that is it, I think. And one last video of internal security will be there most probably, and in that video we'll conclude the static portion of internal security. But mind it that we are here only talking about the static portion one, and second we are focusing on framework and the ways to deal with the unknown questions in the exam hall. ठीक है, या फिर mock test center whatever. ठीक है, and third is basically revision. ठीक है, these three things we must keep while watching these videos, and while I am recording these videos I will also keep this in mind. ठीक है, so that is it for this video. Keep smiling.